Take one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube channel show called Where the Music Lives On. And here we interview members of our I.F.A.T.S page called I Forgot About That Song. Today we have with us Mr. Richard Lenert. Now, Richard, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Richard Leonard. All right. Great to have you here, Richard. Welcome. How are you?
I am good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's so nice to finally get you on. I know we tried a couple of times to get you on for an interview, and it's really a pleasure to be able to interview you right now.
The
So,
pleasure is all mine.
all right. We're gonna get into the meat of things in a few minutes, but what I would like to do is I would like to get a little background on you, Richard. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Chicago more years ago than I care to admit. And, I lived there until my early 20s, and then I moved to New York City, where I lived for a large number of years between New York City and New Jersey because the city got to be too expensive. So we relocated into New Jersey, where it was less expensive to live. And then in the early 2000s, my job changed dramatically.
hmm
And I was caught off guard by a reorganization surprise. And I ended up losing that long term job because if you stay in a place too long, they throw you out.
Eventually.
And that's what happened. So my sister lived here in the San Diego area. She lives in Coronado. And we had come out to visit her, and we took a look around and we're like, oh my God, it doesn't get any better than this. So we were, looking forward, looking ahead to the retirement years and to the, later years. And we realized that it might be time for a change. We were talking about somewhere down the East Coast, not Florida, but, the Carolinas or
Okay.
Maryland or, somewhere in that area. And the West Coast didn't really occur to us until we actually came out here. So anyway, we've been here since 2006.
Oh, okay. So what part of you're in California, so what part are you in?
I'm in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. San Diego is one place I've always wanted to visit in California. I've never been on the East Coast, but somehow San Diego has always been that place you want to visit. I hear it's incredibly beautiful.
It is. It really is very nice. Can I ask where you're from? Where you're broadcasting from?
Yeah, I live in New Jersey at this moment. I'm originally from Florida, but I'm living in New Jersey now.
Okay. We lived in Hoboken for many years,
Okay.
and then we lived in Bayonne for a time,
Oh,
which is
yes,
like
yes.
6 or 7 miles south of Hoboken.
Okay. Okay. So now you grew up now how many are in your family, your siblings? Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have two older sisters.
Okay. Two older sisters. Now, was music prevalent in your childhood growing up? Did your parents play a lot of music or
My mother listened to classical music on the radio every day when she was cleaning and stuff.
did she?
And yes, she had a radio. So she listened to the radio, she listened to classical music. And I
Okay.
listened to it because I didn't have any choice. There was no rock and roll at that time. I mean, there was rock and roll, but she didn't listen to it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
My middle sister loved rock and roll because she listened to the radio a lot. She didn't buy records, but she always had the top 40 station on. So that's where I first got my first taste of the Shirelles and Bobby Darin and, all those kind of people. And I'm like, this stuff is kind of catchy. This is different than the classical music that Mama listens to. So, again, she didn't buy records, but when I was 10 years old, I bought my first 45 by Leslie Gore called "It's My Party."
Yes, yes.
And that was the start of a lifelong record collecting hobby. And then I bought the first album I bought was The Supremes' "Where Did Our Love Go"
Yes, yes, yes.
in 1964, and it was in mono. And
Wow.
it was a big $2.98, and I had to save money from my paper route to buy it. But I
Right.
did that, and that was a good life lesson. And I don't have to tell you, I wish records were still $2.98,
Don't we all? Don't
like
we all?
like they
So
were back in the day.
you're growing up in Chicago,
Yeah,
correct? And your mom is listening to the classics or the
yeah,
classic music, I should say, and your sister has some influence because she loved rock and roll.
yeah,
Now you get your first album or record, I should say, by Leslie Gore.
yeah.
And I think that that particular song was may have been produced by Quincy Jones, correct?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay, so now you're sort of foraying into maybe a little bit of R&B, and somehow you're loving this sound. You get these Supremes, and once you get that, you're hooked. So
Yeah.
following this journey, who are your artists? Who are your go-to artists? Who was the music? I mean, who are the artists that really, carried on that love for that music and for R&B?
To this day, Motown is my favorite. I am a
Okay.
Motown aficionado. As a matter of fact, my good friend Tyrone Cannon, who is on,
Yes.
on your site, he is my soul brother number one. I love, 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 love him.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a question, I go to him, or I go to some of the other people. I'll bring them into it later. But Tyrone calls me Mr. Motown. He's so funny. No, Mayor of Motown. I'm sorry.
Mayor of Motown. Okay.
He calls me the mayor of Motown, which is an honestly distinguished title coming
Oh
from
yeah. Oh, of
someone
course.
like that. That I am so honored. But no, I started listening to the Supremes, and then I moved into Martha and the Vandellas, and
Mhm.
the girls were always first. The girl groups were always the best because
Yes.
they were not as prevalent as the guy groups. So I always
Hmm.
wanted the girls to come front and center. Of course, I love the Temptations and the Four Tops and the Miracles and all those people.
Yes. Yes.
But Motown has always been first and foremost
Hmm.
with me.
With
Um,
you. Okay.
I did buy a lot of top 40 stuff. I bought those silly bubblegum songs that came out in the late 60s, Yummy,
Hmm.
Yummy, and Chewy Chewy, and Archies, and all that silly
You've
stuff.
had your share of that too.
And you couldn't get away from that because that's what they played on the radio.
Yeah.
And that's how our tastes were sort of geared. They you listen to what they played. You know,
Okay. Growing up in Chicago, because I've never been to Chicago, so it's hard to geographically picture things.
Mhm.
Did you grow up in a segregated area, or did you grow up surrounded about people of different cultures?
I grew up on the south side of Chicago, but it was in a it was in a predominantly white neighborhood.
Okay, okay,
But I did know Black people who lived in the outside of the area.
okay, okay.
And
So the
and
music that was actually played on the radio during that time that you were listening to, or your sister was able to get these rock and roll, was that a popular radio station? Was it, I mean, could it be heard on the south side as well as I guess the,
yes, yes,
okay.
yes. It was the top 40 pop station. There were a couple of them in Chicago. And then one day I was flipping channels. I had a little transistor radio. I'm sure you remember those.
Oh yeah.
And I was changing stations and I came across the Soul station. And I thought I died and went to heaven because they were playing James Brown and they were playing King Curtis, and they were playing people that I had not heard. I didn't have a lot of experience, foray into the Memphis sound or the Muscle Shoals soul sounds,
Uh-huh.
and I started getting into those. Stax was different than Motown. Stax was the Motown of the South.
Correct. You're very correct
Um,
on that.
and there were some great people that came from there, Isaac Hayes,
Hmm.
and you know the list.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Absolutely.
And I started getting into the Southern sound, and then there was West Coast R&B or West Coast rock R&B, like Sly and the Family Stone.
Hmm.
Who people argue, they say, "Oh, Sly is a rock group." No, Sly can be R&B.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
so can the Chambers Brothers. If you listen, if you they were marketed as a rock group,
Yeah.
but they could play R&B, they could play soul music. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
That's why sometimes categories are a little bit confusing at times, and sometimes you wonder if it's even really needed. However, let's take a step back a little bit, or a step forward, if you will. You are in I.F.A.T.S, and I don't remember the exact time that you joined. But what I would like to know is what caught your attention? Why did you join?
it was I'm a member of two or three different music groups
Okay.
on Facebook. And I was scrolling down and I saw something on, I forgot about that song. And I thought that was a really nice title
Hmm.
for a group. And I scrolled through and I saw many of the songs that I had forgotten about, you know, and I thought
Okay.
it was interesting that people still remembered these songs. And one of the important things about your site, and I've had this discussion with many people, is this music needs to be kept alive.
Yes.
Whether it's R&B, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's jazz or whatever, this music needs to stay around because um, I'm running into people in this day and age who are starting to not know who Diana Ross is, and that's really frightening to me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It really is, Richard. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it's one of the reasons why I'm so protective of IFATs because of the music that we play and what our intentions are. Our intentions are exactly what you say, to preserve this type of music. And it
right?
is fading. And as long as IFATs remain, this music will remain.
Yes, and I listen to internet radio now,
Okay.
and I found a 60s station out of Miami, and they play only 60s music from 1960 to 1969. And
Uh-huh.
I'm amazed at how many songs I don't know that they play because they weren't big hits,
Correct.
or if I think back hard enough, which is getting increasingly more difficult these days, thank you very much. Um, I might be able to remember them, but I mean, I feel good that I found this station because it takes me back and I can clean my house or do whatever I need to do, and I'm listening to music that I enjoy. I'm not listening to stuff that I don't particularly care for. But and I've had this conversation with Tyrone Cannon
Uh-huh.
because he does an oldies set
Yes.
in Cincinnati
Mm-hmm.
once a week.
Yes, he does. He does.
And if I lived in Cincinnati, I would be there every single week because he plays some great music.
Yeah, I told him the same thing. I have to come down there. I have to be there when he does his set. But hopefully I can get there too. Do you plan on probably making a trip there?
My mother and father relocated to Cincinnati from Chicago when in
Oh,
their
okay.
in their older years, but they passed on, so I don't really have any connection there anymore. However, Tyrone may look up one of these days and see me. I'm just going to be
You
Mr.
may see both of
Outrageous.
us together. You know what I mean?
I would love it. I would love it. No, but
Absolutely.
I've had this talk with Tyrone, and I said to Tyrone, you're doing something very valuable. You're keeping the music alive.
Exactly.
And if you look
Exactly.
at his audience, it's people who are 50, 60, 70, and
Hmm.
even older who are dancing to his music because they're not with the music that is out there now, for whatever reason.
Well, and speaking of which, we will come back to I.F.A.T.S as well. You mentioned something just now, today's music, and do you listen to the crop of music that we have now? Because again, we're talking about a certain category because I don't even think they really exist any longer, as far as I'm concerned. Now, what do you think about R&B and its future? Does it still live, or how do you feel about today's music?
I don't think R&B exists at this point in time. It certainly doesn't exist the way we remembered it. It's a different kind of R&B. You
Hmm.
know, Um, it's much more hip hop, it's much more rap, which is not the kind of music that I am particularly interested in. But let me just say, there are some hip hop songs that are great. There are some. There are some that are very good. There are some that are catchy. Some that are okay. Early hip hop is a lot more relatable than the later hip hop.
Okay,
You
yes.
know,
Okay.
than the current hip hop I'm hearing now. And I don't necessarily listen to it in the car. Sometimes I'll listen to a top 40 station that doesn't really play so much top 40. They play more album cuts and
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And I don't really care that much for what I'm hearing. It doesn't. I don't know whether it's the arrangement or the vocals or what, but it's
It's a
it's
combination of so much. It's a combination of much because the music. We found it so relatable back then, Richard, because we definitely understood what they were saying.
yeah,
Most of all, it was if it was about love, it was about love.
yeah.
But if it was about sex, it was about sex, but it was done in such a clever way. Right now everything is sort of in your face, so it's hard to really define exactly what they are expressing.
hmm hmm Right, right. So you listen to someone like Beyonce, who is always very interesting. I mean, visually, she's phenomenal.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
think she's the best singer, but she has a presence that commands your attention. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Now, how do you feel about neo soul? Did that ever catch on with you?
Um, yes and no. There are a couple of artists like Erica Badu, who is very good. Who is that other woman? God. Uh,
Jill Scott,
Remy,
maybe?
who?
Jill Scott, maybe?
Oh, Jill Scott. Yes, I love Jill Scott. Um, Jill Scott is good. Black. Oh, Heather Headley. Do you know
Oh,
her?
yes. Yes, yes, I do.
Heather Headley. These are '90s, 2000s. You know,
Yes.
somewhere in that reign. I love Rihanna. She's not neo soul, but I love Rihanna. Um, I like Bruno Mars. I don't like too many people who are out there now. When they have these award shows and they have a singer, I'm like, who are you? I don't know who you are. And then I'll listen to them, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. So it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I have that same question. Who is this? And again, I very rarely even watch the award shows any longer. Now, speaking of uh going back to IFATs again, you mentioned Tyrone. What other relationships musically have you formed with the other members, or whom the other members in
Oh God,
IFAT?
Tyrone Cannon is good. Derwin Goodwin,
Yes, yes, yes.
love Derwin. My girl Valerie Chavez.
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh. Yeah,
absolutely,
very sweet person too.
I absolutely love her. She always has something good to say, and she puts some sunshine in my day.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. I love that.
Mike King,
Mike King, I'm not familiar. Oh, Green, maybe?
Mike Green, is that his
Yes,
name?
yes,
Right.
yes.
But he's been absent recently.
Yeah,
So,
he has just relocated. He had to remove. So it took a lot of it was a lot of undertaking for him to do so.
and of course, your partner Charles.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So
Yes.
you can't live without Charles. I mean, you've got to
Yeah.
have Charles every day. You got to have some Charles every day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think if I posted the Star Spangled Banner, Charles would like it. It doesn't matter. Charles likes everything.
Yeah, yeah. He's also very, quite knowledgeable as well with
But
his.
again, these are my friends. These are people that I chat with in the thread. And
Hmm.
these are people we can have honest, down home conversations with, and we don't argue. It doesn't escalate into a big disagreement and yada da da da. And oh Lord, I'm right and you're wrong, and this, that, and the other thing. We can just we respect each other's abilities. You know what I mean?
I love that, and that's the way it should be. And most of the people that we've interviewed, have that same sentiment.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that. Love
important.
that.
It's important
It
because
is.
you go on some of these sites and these people get really rude and really outlandish, and you should learn what you're talking about because people do make a lot of mistakes when they
Hmm.
post stuff. They don't necessarily research it thoroughly. Um, and it always upsets me when I see pictures of, say, Martha and the Vandellas, but then they'll say, "Oh God, the Marvelettes are my favorite group.
Yeah,
Look at Gladys in the middle. Those are not the Marvelettes." So I will come out and I'll say it in a nice way, of course. But
of
you know,
course.
if they start coming back at me, I'm like, okay, next.
Wow. Wow. Have you attended any concerts, past or future?
Years, oh my God, back in the 60s, I was underage and I snuck into the theater in Chicago and I saw the Motortown Review.
Wow, did you really? I'm always fascinated by people who saw that.
I saw the Motortown Review in Chicago and I thought I was on cloud nine for like years after.
What?
Yeah, it was great. It was great, great,
Wow.
great, great, great.
That
Yep.
had to be some experience, Richard. Some experience.
And in those days, it was only like $3 to get in.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
not that
Oh
not
yeah.
that I had $3. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. But
Yeah. And you think about that today and it blows your mind. $3. But back then that was quite a bit of money.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, 45s were what, 50 cents,
Mm-hmm.
75 cents, and then when they went up to $1, everybody started kicking and screaming, "Oh, I can't afford that!" Yada da da da. You know.
Do you have a huge music collection?
I have, yes, yes. Actually, I've been downsizing my collection because in the I have an extensive Motown collection. I have probably about 85 to 90% of their catalog.
Wow.
I have the
Oh, Richard.
45s and the albums,
Okay.
but I don't have the European releases. I don't have 8 tracks. I don't have tapes. I don't have any of that. When the albums started coming out on CD, I bought them again on CD, you
Okay.
know, just to help preserve them. But I can't let go of the vinyl. I can't.
Yeah, it is hard. It's especially when you have such a passion for this music. It's
Yeah.
very hard, very difficult to do so.
And I have in the 70s and 80s, I was a club DJ.
Okay.
So I have a lot of 12-inch singles that I used to spin. This is going back. This is now music is spun electronically,
Yes.
through computers.
Hmm.
We didn't do that. We did it the old-fashioned way by taking 2 turntables, 2 needles, and a mixer. And baby, you had to know what you were doing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I look at those people and I marvel. It's something I can't even imagine doing.
And the other thing that I've noticed is, particularly among DJs my age, is we came up in the 60s and our love for Motown and our love for soul and R&B took us to dance music, disco music. That's
Okay.
how we learned about the beat. That's how we learned how to mix music,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know, because that was the foundation that we had. And that was the love that we all shared from our early years, you know.
How long did you DJ for? How long did you spend these records?
Oh, I DJ'd, oh God, the first DJ gig I did was in 1975. And then I didn't do it for a while after that. And then in the late 70s and early, almost all through the 80s in New York, I
Okay.
was spinning. And the 80s was the golden age of dance music. There was so many good songs from the 80s.
So was that your favorite musical period
For dance music, yes.
for dance music? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, who outside of Motown are your favorite or some of your favorite artists?
Well, again, like I said, I like Stax. I love the Beatles. I like the Stones. I do like rock and roll also.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
I like all different kinds of music, really.
Do you once in a while still listen to classical music, or is that completely out of your repertoire?
I listen to it when I'm trying to fall asleep, and it
Yeah.
works.
That will definitely work for me, Richard. Okay.
Right? Right?
Wow, I like that. Uh Now we've spoken about the 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 status of music today, at least in your opinion. Now,
Right.
looking ahead 20 years from now, how do you think music will be appreciated, if you will? How do you think many of the artists today, because many of the artists of the past, those type of groups really don't exist anymore. So how do you think the artists of today will actually be able to convey their creativity?
That's a good question. Uh, I don't know if radio in itself is going to exist in 20 years. You know, that's the first thing you have to think about is because the technology changes all the time. It's
Daily.
ever changing, and it moves so quickly that if you miss a step, you're lost.
You're lost.
So who knows how music is going to end up? I don't know. You know, that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, because I remember when cassettes were a big thing from the 8 tracks. Then I remember CDs.
Yeah,
And I wasn't crazy about CDs because I used to love my cassettes.
Michael, who?
My cassettes, the
Oh yeah,
cassette.
cassettes. Okay, yeah.
Yes, and then the cassettes, of course, led to the CDs, and the CDs I eventually got to appreciate. Now, these things are almost ancient.
Hmm.
These so music, as you mentioned, is played or shared online, and you listen to it that way. I don't know when the last time I've seen an album or an album store, unless it was an oldies. So music,
Vinyl is supposedly making a comeback.
is it really?
Yeah, I see these things. Vinyl's coming back, and they're re-releasing albums again on vinyl, like Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On"
Uh-huh.
coming
Yes.
out on vinyl again, a green vinyl. Then there's another one that's yellow gold vinyl, that kind of thing. And collectors run to get this kind of stuff. I don't. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon.
The music doesn't change.
No, no.
The
But I
music
think it's
doesn't
it's all
change.
about having the record. It's the reason why I can't get rid of my Motown 45s is there's something about owning the 45. There's something
Well,
about
I agree. I agree
having
with
it
you.
and playing it and owning it and knowing that you've had it for the length of time you've had it. It's so hard to get rid of. It's like a piece of my childhood I would give up, and I couldn't forget about that, you know.
And that's what I mean. You had the 8 tracks, you had your cassettes, you had the CDs, and now they don't even really make CD players anymore. If you get a new car, there's no CD player in there.
Right,
Everything
right.
is Bluetooth, and that's what I mean. So if it makes a comeback, will everything sort of make its way back around?
Probably. Yeah, it probably will. I think that at some point, it's like look at it from the standpoint of your computer. People don't write letters anymore. They send emails.
Emails, correct.
People, or when someone passes away, you don't send a condolence card. You send an email of condolence.
Yes.
I think the day will come when people will you know, will come back to the old way of communicating, writing letters, sending cards. It makes a difference. That personal touch matters. You know,
Yeah, yeah. And that's how I feel about the 45s that I do own. It is a personal uh touch for me. It is an album or 45 that I first bought 40 years ago.
yeah,
And I still have it, and it's in mint condition, and you can look at it as you said, and it's like having pride in owning this particular type of music.
right, 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 right.
So So now, I always think that music is going to, we walk outside and we will be able to hear it in our own heads. I mean, literally hear it without having any, being attached to anything.
Right.
I picture that, and I really hope that doesn't come, but that's how I see the world right now.
Yeah.
In this sort of, I don't know, vacuum, and you're your own person, and you're just, whenever you want to hear the music, step out and you can hear this music, Richard.
Yes.
But it's not the same experience as going into your room and turning on your record player and putting that album on and just looking at the linear notes. I miss those days. I miss those.
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
Going back to IFATS,
Yes.
is there anything that you like as far as the events go? So we have these several events. What is your favorite event on IFATS?
I love the Super Sunday things you do. You pick a theme each week, and I
Yes.
was I always look forward to what it's going to be. And then the night before I start, getting my list together of what I'm going to do. But some of those themes, you might try doing. I don't know if you have ever done one hit wonders,
Yes. Yes,
or
we've done that
if you
before.
if
We're
you could.
coming back to that. A lot of the things that we've done that we haven't done in a very long time, we're coming back to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may want to do one, all the uh, dances, like the mashed potato and the twist, and because there were so many dances back
Yeah. Yeah. We've actually done that one twice or three times.
all through the 60s. There were so many dances, and the dances
Yeah.
continued into the 70s and 80s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime I always have certain people that come up to me and say, you should do this and you should do that one. And I'll tell them, we did that already. We've done that already. And then a lot of times I'm thinking maybe it's been a while that they don't remember,
Yeah,
or maybe they weren't on the page at that time. Now you mentioned I don't think you mentioned the year that you joined. Do you remember the year you joined, Richard?
I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3, 4 years ago, something like that.
Oh, okay. So around maybe 2020.
Yeah, something like that.
21. Oh, okay. All right. Good, good, good. So do you plan on staying with I.F.A.T.S? Because
Oh yeah, yeah.
you're
No,
one of
I
the
I
most
post
popular
something.
members we have, believe it or not.
I post a song every day. I post one song every day. I was on a I was on a song called Motown from the Vaults.
Okay.
I don't know if you know that one.
No,
But
no.
they're a nice group, and I think they come out of England.
That's
Uh,
the name of the group, Motown Out of the Vaults.
Motown from the Vaults. Yeah,
From the Vaults. Okay. I have to look for that.
and I was posting with them. I posted 5 songs a day with them last year. I did Motown 45s, and I would pick a year, and then I would spend all that week posting songs from that year. Then next week I would go to another year, you know. So
Okay.
that's the way I did it. Now I'm off that group for the moment, and
Okay.
I'm back with you guys, and I'm posting 1 song a day.
Well, good. And it's really, really a pleasure to have you, Richard. And again, you mentioned Tyrone and those others who are very knowledgeable. And I have to let you know that you're quite knowledgeable yourself. I can post something, all of a sudden you'll say something about this particular song or the artist, and I'm thinking, wow, I didn't even I didn't realize that.
But
But
you know what? It refreshes my memory and it lets me know that I've still got something up in my head that
there
I
you
can
go.
remember. I
There
can't
you
remember
go.
what I had for breakfast, but I remember the words to a song from 1961. Isn't that interesting?
It certainly is. It certainly is. But I want to thank you for giving us your time. Uh,
Anytime.
absolutely, absolutely. It's been thorough, such an enjoyable moment for me. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that we've asked many of our other members who have been
Yes.
interviewed, and it is, what song, if you had the opportunity to only listen to one song,
Yes.
and tell us what that one song would be, Richard.
That would have to be the Supremes' Baby Love.
Ah, okay.
That is the quintessential Motown song. It's got the 3 ladies singing together
Mm-hmm.
back at a time when things were good with them, and you can hear the joyous happiness in the song. It's got a good beat. You can dance to it. You know all the words. I mean, that song encompasses everything. So
Wow.
that's the song that I would like to listen to forever and ever. I never get tired of hearing that.
All right, right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I like that, baby love. Well, thank you once again, Richard, for
Thank
being
you,
with
Pamela.
us on Where the Music Lives On. And again, it has been indeed a pleasure. I appreciate that. I
Thank
appreciate
you so much.
You're
And I'm so
welcome.
sorry that I misbehaved sometimes when you have the Super Sunday thing. I'll put a song that's not supposed to be there, and there you are slapping my hand.
I get that whip out. Okay. But it's all good, Richard. It's all good. And again, such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right, you take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.